The next time you walk into work bracing for a fight, your heart racing, your jaw tight, ready to defend yourself before anyone even speaks, consider this. The pressure you're feeling might not just be about what's happening at work. It could be your fight response running the show. In today's episode, I'll show you how to release that fight energy and communicate clearly so you can speak with authority, not regret. Welcome to Heal Your Trauma, Find Your Voice, the podcast for trauma survivors ready to break free from people-pleasing and self-doubt. I'm Dr. Annie Campanile, here to help you trust your intuition, communicate clearly, and build relationships that fulfill you. Each week, you'll learn practical tips to heal past wounds and turn surviving into thriving. Today, we're going to lift an invisible pressure that weighs so many people down, especially those who care deeply and work in high-stress environments like healthcare or emergency services. When the pressure is high and you're trying to do the right thing, it's easy for your nervous system to get stuck in fight mode. Picture this. You're in the middle of a busy workday. A colleague questions how you handled a situation, or a last-minute change derails your plans. Your fists clench, you get the urge to shout, and whether or not you say anything, your whole body is ready for conflict. Contrary to what you might have been told, this isn't about you having a bad temper, and it's not a character flaw. It's simply your nervous system trying to protect you. Basically, it's a strength that's going too far. Because when you're accustomed to protecting yourself, especially if you've lived through past experiences where your safety was at risk, your survival response might have become hyper alert. And when that happens, even minor tension with another person can seem threatening. But please remember this, your survival response is good. It's essential and valuable when you're actually in danger. I promise it's not your enemy, you just need to manage it. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. When you're expected to stay calm under pressure, like working in a hospital, your unmanaged survival response can damage relationships and even put your job security at risk. That's what happened to a physician I coached, who I'll call Michael. When I first met Michael, he was on the verge of losing his job because his coworkers found him impossible to work with. Other doctors, nurses, leaders, and staff had complained about him being standoffish, rude, and even explosive. His patient files were months behind, yet he would yell at the practice manager when she asked him to get caught up. And then he'd refuse to update his files. And this was putting the hospital's finances at risk. The hospital's chief medical officer had reached the difficult decision that if Michael did not change his behavior, he would be let go. Michael was told that he must meet with me for coaching. Not the best way to begin a coaching relationship, but I agreed to do it. When I walked into his office, Michael sat with his arms crossed and his feet up on his desk. I stood across from him and he said, "I know I have to meet with you, and that's fine, but this is just my personality. Nothing's going to change." I sat down across from him and calmly replied, "I know it feels like your personality, but I have a different perspective for you to consider. Whenever there is persistent conflict, it's a sign that somebody is in survival mode. The survival response is active like fight or flight. It feels like it's your personality because it's so familiar to you, but every conflict is driven by the survival response. Fight or flight is the reason why people say things they regret or shut down instead of saying what they really mean." Michael looked away to consider what I had just said, and for some reason I glanced up at the clock. I noticed that only 10 minutes had passed since I had arrived, and then Michael took his feet off his desk, uncrossed his arms, and he said, "You know, when I was growing up, I was the only one standing between my siblings and my father. I took all the beatings so they wouldn't have to." I felt a rush of chills through my body when I heard him say that, yet I remained very calm. I knew this was a critical moment. My response would either reinforce Michael's perception that his aggressive behavior was justified, or I would help him move beyond fight mode and save his job. I responded by saying, "It's no wonder you developed such a strong fight response, and thank goodness you did. It helped you survive in a terrifying and dangerous situation. Your survival response is really important when you're truly in danger, like you and your siblings were when you were young." What we need to do now, I explained, is to help your survival brain recognize that you are no longer in that situation. You're an adult now. You're not in your father's home, and you are able to protect yourself and take care of yourself and others without having to resort to fighting. Michael was intrigued by this perspective. He told me he had lost a previous job because of his files being late and his explosive behavior. He did not want to lose this job, and he wanted to live with less daily stress from constantly being ready for battle. So I walked him through a simple practice I call the tension and release reset, a quick way to help his body release that fight energy instead of directing it toward a colleague. I said, let's try this. Inhale deeply, and as you inhale, tighten every muscle in your body. Press your feet into the floor, squeeze your legs, brace your abs, clench your fists. Hold your breath and keep your muscles tense for a few seconds. And now blow all your air out and let every muscle release at the same time. Let your body relax like you're dropping heavy armor. Michael exhaled with force. His shoulders dropped. He looked at me and he said, "Wow, that actually feels a lot better." I suggested that Michael repeat the tension and release reset a few times each day because I knew that with so much practice being in fight mode, it would take repetition for his nervous system and his survival brain to understand that it was okay for him to actually release that tension. That exercise didn't fix everything, of course, but it gave Michael a way to calm his fight response before it threatened his career any further. After that day, Michael decided to work with a counselor to heal from his traumatic childhood, and I coached him through the steps of repairing his relationships with his colleagues. It took time for people to trust that he wouldn't lash out if they asked him to update a patient file or change a patient appointment. But eventually, Michael built trust with his colleagues and was able to not only save his job, but also experience the pleasure of positive interactions, mutual respect, and relaxed conversations. All because he took responsibility for managing his fight response and healing from his trauma. What I really want you to understand today is that lashing out is not a character flaw or a personality trait. It happens when survival energy gets so intense that you literally cannot hold it in anymore. Think about holding your breath underwater. At first, it's a choice, and you're in control. But if you stay underwater long enough, your body will eventually force you to swim to the surface and gasp for air, whether you want to or not. The same thing happens with the fight response. When that survival energy builds and builds without release, there comes a point where it becomes involuntary. The outburst isn't a choice anymore. It's your system desperately trying to protect you. This is why willpower alone isn't enough to resolve persistent conflict. Telling yourself to stay calm or memorizing the right words to say won't work either, because the conflict isn't driven by conscious choice, it's driven by survival. The key is managing your fight response sooner, before it reaches the point of no return. And the tension and release reset can help you do that. So when you feel yourself getting aggravated or your muscles tensing up for a fight, try the tension and release reset this week. Here's how it works. Step 1, inhale deeply. Fill your lungs all the way. While you're doing that, step 2 is to tighten every muscle that you can, but leave your jaw loose. Be careful not to clench your teeth. Hold your breath while you keep all those muscles tight and let the tension hold for a few seconds. And then finally, exhale completely. Blow all of your air out and at the same time, release every muscle. Let your body relax like you're dropping your armor. You can repeat those steps until you notice something shift, like the aggression starts calming down or your thoughts become clearer. The tension and release reset gives your fight energy somewhere to go, so you can channel it into confidence, not conflict. But I do want to speak to something that might be causing you concern. Some people worry that if they let go of their protective reactions, they'll become weak and be taken advantage of. But I've actually found the opposite to be true. When you're not caught up in survival mode, you can advocate for yourself with clarity and strength instead of reactivity. And when you do that, others want to listen to you. They want to collaborate with you and even follow you because their nervous systems recognize that you are safe to be around. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Heal Your Trauma, Find Your Voice. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a colleague who could use the reset too. Next time, we're devoting a full episode to the joy that becomes possible when your nervous system is no longer stuck in survival. You'll hear a surprising and sweet story of connection and learn a simple way to experience more love exactly where you are now. This one's for you if you're ready to feel more connected with others without needing to say a single word. Until then, I'm Dr. Annie Campanile, reminding you that healing is possible and you don't have to do it alone. See you next time.